You have probably used this technology today. Maybe to leave your house, maybe to avoid traffic, maybe without even realizing it. It sits quietly in your pocket, in your car, on your wrist, in the aircraft flying above you. It is invisible, precise, constant. And because it works so perfectly, most people never stop to ask where it came from, who created it, or why it exists at all. What almost no one realizes is that this technology was never designed to help you find a restaurant, track a run, or summon a ride. It was born out of fear, rivalry, and a silent struggle for control beyond Earth's atmosphere. The story of GPS begins long before smartphones, before modern computers, and before anyone imagined that satellites could guide every step of human life. It begins at a moment when the world collectively held its breath. In 1957, a small metal object crossed the sky over the United States. It carried no weapons, no cameras, no voice, yet it terrified an entire nation. Its name was Sputnik, the first artificial satellite ever placed into orbit by the Soviet Union. That steady, rhythmic signal coming from space was more than a scientific achievement. To Americans, it sounded like a warning. If the Soviets could place a satellite above the Earth, they could just as easily deliver something far more dangerous. But while the public reacted with fear, a small group of American scientists noticed something remarkable. As Sputnik moved closer, the frequency of its radio signal increased. As it moved farther away, the frequency dropped. This was the Doppler effect, a known principle of physics, but it had never been applied this way before. By analyzing the change in frequency, scientists realized they could track the satellite's movement from the ground. Then came a far more powerful realization. If a satellite's position could be calculated from Earth, then perhaps a person's position on Earth could be calculated from satellites in space. That single insight changed everything. In the heart of the Cold War, the United States began investing heavily in technologies that could guarantee strategic superiority. One of those investments led to the creation of the world's first satellite navigation system, known as Transit. Developed with support from what would later become DARPA, Transit was designed primarily to help nuclear submarines know their exact position before launching missiles. It was slow and imperfect, but it worked. For the first time in history, a location on Earth could be determined using signals from space. Transit operated for decades and proved something revolutionary. Satellite-based navigation was not only possible, it was inevitable. But visionaries inside the system knew this was only the beginning. One of them was Ivan Getting, the founding president of the Aerospace Corporation. He imagined something far more powerful, a network of lighthouses in the sky that could guide anyone anywhere at any time. To make that vision real, engineers faced an enormous challenge. Precise navigation required precise time. Even an error of a few billionths of a second could throw off a position by miles. At first, the idea of putting ultra-accurate clocks into every receiver was impractical. They were expensive, bulky, and fragile. Then came a radical decision that would define the future of GPS. Instead of placing the clocks on the ground, engineers would place them on the satellites themselves. Those clocks were atomic clocks, among the most precise instruments ever created. By synchronizing time and space, the receiver on Earth could be simple, small, and affordable. All it needed to do was listen. By measuring the delay of signals from at least 4 satellites, a receiver could calculate its exact position in 3 dimensions. That single architectural choice would eventually allow GPS to shrink from military equipment to something that fits inside a smartphone. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, multiple programs pushed the technology forward. Transit demonstrated feasibility. Timation introduced advanced timekeeping. Project 621-B refined the architecture. Each contributed a critical piece. In 1973, the U.S. Department of Defense approved a unified system that combined the best of all 3. It would consist of 24 satellites orbiting Earth continuously, providing global coverage day and night. It was an ambitious, expensive, and technically daunting project, but the strategic value was undeniable. In 1978, the first experimental GPS satellite was launched. It was not perfect, but it worked. Extensive testing followed across oceans, deserts, aircraft, and vehicles. The results confirmed what engineers had hoped. The system was astonishingly accurate. Satellite by satellite, the constellation grew. By 1990, GPS became fully operational. For the first time in human history, the United States possessed a system capable of precisely navigating the entire planet. Yet, there was a catch. GPS was never meant for civilians. For years, the signal available to the public was intentionally degraded through a feature known as selective availability. The concern was simple. If everyone had access to precise positioning, so would adversaries. Despite this limitation, early commercial GPS units began to appear in the late 1980s. They were large, heavy, expensive, and power-hungry, but they represented something historic. Civilian access to space-based navigation had begun. Everything changed in the year 2000. The US government made a decision that reshaped the modern world. Selective availability was turned off. Overnight, GPS accuracy for civilians improved by a factor of 10. At the same time, advances in microelectronics caused the cost of GPS chips to collapse. What once cost thousands of dollars dropped to just a few dollars, then mere cents. This convergence sparked an explosion of innovation. Cars gained navigation systems. Phones learned their exact location. Entire industries emerged almost instantly. Transportation, logistics, agriculture, aviation, science, and consumer technology all became dependent on GPS. Perhaps the most invisible and critical role of GPS is time itself. GPS does not only provide location, it provides extraordinarily precise time synchronization. Power grids, financial markets, telecommunications networks, and the internet all rely on timing signals from GPS satellites. Every stock trade, every data packet, every financial transaction depends on clocks synchronized from space. Without GPS timing, modern civilization would grind to a halt within hours. As the world grew more dependent on GPS, the system continued to evolve. New generations of satellites brought stronger signals, better accuracy, and greater resistance to interference. The GPS-3 satellites represent the most advanced version of the system yet, offering enhanced reliability for both military and civilian users. They secure not only America's technological leadership in space, but also the global economy that depends on it. Studies estimate that GPS has generated well over $1 trillion in economic benefits since its inception. It has saved fuel, reduced emissions, optimized supply chains, improved farming, enhanced disaster response, and saved countless lives. What makes this story remarkable is how it began. Not with convenience, but with competition. Not with comfort, but with crisis. A simple radio signal from a Soviet satellite sparked an American response that ultimately transformed the entire planet. GPS is more than an invention. It is proof of what happens when long-term vision, engineering excellence, and national ambition align. It is a reminder that some of the most impactful technologies in human history were born not from consumer demand, but from strategic necessity. The next time you follow a blue dot on your screen, remember this. Every meter, every second, every route is the result of decades of American innovation, of engineers who looked into the sky and decided it could guide the Earth itself. And this is just one breakthrough among many. If this story changed the way you see GPS, let us know in the comments where you rely on it most in your daily life. If you want to keep discovering the American innovations that shaped the modern world, subscribe to the channel. And if this video brought value to you, leave a like. There are many more breakthroughs waiting to be explored.